At your age, without a significant position and such incompetence, you're no longer needed at this company. I've already prepared your termination letter, and you'll receive severance. Pack up your things and leave immediately." I endured the president's harsh words in silence. There was no point in arguing with someone like her. "I understand, I'm terminated," I said calmly. I gathered my belongings quickly and left the office. To an outsider, I may have seemed like a defeated employee at the mercy of the president, but I had already uncovered her weakness. My name is Caroline, and I'm 48. While most women my age are settled with families or even grandchildren, I remain single. It wasn't that I didn't want to marry. I've had my share of relationships, but my career and wonderful colleagues kept me fulfilled. At least, that was true until a few months ago, when everything changed. Our company was a family-owned business, with executive positions reserved for the chairman's relatives. His son, daughter, and their spouses all held high-ranking roles. Despite this, we non-family employees were treated fairly, with opportunities to rise in the company. Under the chairman's leadership, the workplace was united, and everyone worked harmoniously toward common goals. That all changed when the chairman suddenly passed away, and his son took over. The new president was Helena, the chairman's daughter, a complete stranger to the company. None of us knew who she was, but we soon learned she had a successful career at a top-tier firm. While we were surprised by her appointment, her qualifications made some sense. Helena, 38 and also single, had the team speculating about her personality. Perhaps she was a driven professional, focused solely on her career? But when she made her first appearance at the inauguration, she shattered those assumptions. Instead of the poised leader we expected, Helena looked more like someone from a nightclub, dressed provocatively, with towering heels and oversized earrings. Her heavy perfume filled the room, and her speech was as shallow as her appearance, lacking any meaningful connection to the company. Unease rippled through the office. I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling and focus on my work. Not long after, Helena made an unexpected visit to our department. She ignored everyone except one of my colleagues. "Chia, I like you," she announced, as if we were all invisible. "You stood out at the ceremony. Chia, what a cute name. How about joining me for lunch to celebrate?" Sile froze in shock, as did the rest of us. It was completely inappropriate. "Don't look so surprised. You're lucky to be invited by the president," she continued, grabbing Sile's arm as if he had no say in the matter. Chia, always composed, managed to respond politely, "Thank you for the offer, but I have pressing work to finish. Could we go during lunch break?" It was barely 10 a.m., far too early to abandon work for a personal lunch. "Is your work really that important?" Helena scoffed. "Someone else can handle it. Lunch with the president is a much better opportunity for you. I'll teach you what real priorities are." She dragged Sile along despite his clear reluctance, and they didn't return until 2 p.m. Chia, divorced and admired by many of our female colleagues, had always been a favorite in the office, but now, Helena's attention was turning into a problem. Her behavior quickly became a pattern. She'd show up unannounced, pull Sile away for hours, and disrupt the entire department. "I've reserved a table at that fabulous French restaurant," she'd declare, pulling him out for long, extravagant lunches. At the office, she'd sit beside him, chattering about trivial things, ignoring the work that piled up. Our team was stretched thin. Overtime became the norm as we picked up the slack left by Helena's disruptions. No one dared complain openly, but the frustration was palpable. When does she actually do her job? We wondered. It was clear that her presidency was little more than a vanity project. One day, as I was helping Sile with yet another pile of work, I tried to lighten the mood. "Chia, you've really been through it. It's tough when the wrong person sets their sights on you," I joked. Sile sighed. "I'm so sorry for all the trouble. I really appreciate your help, Caroline. I know you have your own work to handle too." "It's not your fault," I assured him. "The problem is with the president, not you." Honestly, what was the chairman thinking? Making her president? Sile smiled faintly, a rare sight these days. It struck me how much we had lost under Helena's leadership. Laughter and camaraderie had given way to tension and dread. How long could we go on like this? The thought weighed heavily on my mind. Determined to break this cycle, I decided to take action. I sought out Carl, the chairman and Helena's father, hoping he might listen to reason. When I first joined the company, Carl had been the executive vice president, and we'd occasionally exchange pleasantries. Now, as chairman, our paths rarely crossed, but I mustered up the courage to approach him, fully aware it might be considered impertinent. He was a man of stature, the son of the former chairman, and I hoped he would empathize with the struggles his employees were facing under Helena's leadership. However, Carl's response was cold and dismissive. "I'm not here to entertain complaints," he said flatly. "Your job is simple. Follow President Helena, do your work, and earn your salary. That's all there is to it." With that, he sent me away. I realized then that Carl was no different from Helena, another fool in power, blind to the damage being done. My disappointment quickly turned to anger. The very next day, Helena appeared in our department once more, looking to whisk Sile away for another one of her lunch outings. But we were under immense pressure, with a critical project deadline looming. The tension in the room was palpable, and Helena's presence only added to the frustration. Several of my colleagues struggled to hide their irritation. "I'm really sorry, but I can't leave my work today," Sile said, trying to decline as politely as possible. "Perhaps you could go without me?" Helena wasn't having it. "It's fine," she said breezily. "Someone else can cover for you." Without hesitation, she turned toward me. "You there," she said, pointing. "Take over Sile's work." I couldn't believe the audacity. I stood my ground. "I'm sorry, but that's not possible. Both Sile and I are swamped with work. No one in this department has the capacity to take on extra tasks right now." Helena's eyes widened, clearly not used to being defied. "What did you just say?" she asked, incredulous. "I heard you say you can't." For a brief moment, her stern gaze made me hesitate, but I knew I had to speak up. "That's right," I repeated firmly. "Sile's tasks today are critical, and I also have a backlog of my own responsibilities. We simply can't afford the disruption. Every time you take him away, our progress stalls, which impacts the entire department and, ultimately, the company's performance. We've even received complaints from clients about slow response times, and our reputation is taking a hit. If this continues, we'll lose ground to our competitors." I had said it all. There was no turning back now. Helena's voice shifted, cold and full of menace. "Do you even know who you're talking to?" she asked. "You realize what happens when someone speaks against the president, don't you?" But I stood my ground. "I'm speaking out of concern for the company," I replied. "We're all working hard to improve performance. I can't agree to anything that hinders our success." "We need Sile at his desk right now," I said firmly, though I held back so much more. I was fully aware she was still the president. Helena's eyes narrowed, and she sneered, yanking my badge to inspect my name. "Caroline, is it? How fitting that someone like you would speak so disrespectfully. You'll regret this. Mark my words." Then, with a sudden shift in tone, she turned to Sile, her voice sweet again. "Sile, let's reschedule for tomorrow. I'll book an Italian place. This whole ridiculous scene has ruined my mood." She waved dismissively as she exited the department. Once she was gone, the room erupted in applause. My colleagues were beaming, some even calling me a hero for standing up to her. But despite their cheers, relief was far from my mind. Helena's threat lingered in the air, heavy and unavoidable. I knew this wasn't over. Sile approached me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Caroline, are you okay? I know you spoke up for all of us, but now she's got her sights on you. I'll stand by you, though. You're not alone." His words were a comfort, and I felt a flicker of strength return. I had allies in this fight. But even with that, I knew Helena would retaliate, and sooner than I expected. The very next day, she appeared in our department again, her expression sharp and determined. "Caroline," she began with venom in her voice, "someone your age, with no significant position and mediocre skills, is no longer needed here. You've overstayed your welcome, and frankly, you're an eyesore. As of today, you're fired. Pack your things and leave." I was stunned. "Fired?" I repeated, hardly believing it. Helena, almost panting with rage, thrust a paper at me. "Yes, fired. And it's all legal, don't bother suing. Here's your termination letter. We'll even pay severance. Now, hurry up and get out." Sile stepped forward, his fists clenched. "That's too harsh, President. Caroline is essential to this team, she's the backbone of this department." Helena scoffed, dismissing him with a wave. "Sile, it's sad how much you've been influenced by this woman. She's dragged you down with her incompetence. You'll see soon enough, this company is better off without her." I stayed silent, knowing arguing with her would get me nowhere. She wasn't someone who listened to reason. "If you believe my presence harms the company, then I'll accept my dismissal," I said calmly, gathering my belongings. Beneath my composure, my anger burned. But I had a plan, this wasn't the end. The next day, I woke to a bright, refreshing morning. After breakfast and some light housework, I glanced at the clock, 10 a.m. Right on time. As expected, my phone rang. The company number flashed on the screen. I already knew who it was. I answered slowly. "Caroline, thank goodness you picked up," came Helena's voice, though it was filled with a thin layer of panic. "Listen, about yesterday, it was just a misunderstanding. You took it too seriously. I never intended for you to not show up today. I'll forget about the incident if you come in right away." She laughed awkwardly, trying to cover her slip. "You're always so serious, Caroline," she added, her voice trembling slightly. "It wasn't a joke. I have the signed termination letter right here. Does the company really issue such documents for fun? If that's the case, it's incredibly irresponsible. A president who flirts with male employees and publicly humiliates her staff is nothing short of disgraceful. I want nothing to do with this company anymore. Helena stood there, momentarily speechless. I seized the moment to press on. I know everything that happened in the office this morning and that you would come crying to me for help. Sal filled me in. Today was critical. We were presenting our flagship product to a key client. A successful presentation could elevate our company, while failure would let our competitors take the lead. You must have recognized its importance. You even attended the morning meeting to rally everyone. You asked who was responsible for the presentation, but no one stepped forward, and the room fell silent. Naturally, I was the one meant to present. When you realized that, you panicked and asked if anyone else could take over. What you found was a collection of resignation letters from all the employees. My dismissal pushed everyone to their breaking point. I continued, so, there you were, Helena. Desperate and realizing you needed me back. Please, if you're there, Caroline, the presentation can still go ahead. We don't have much time before the meeting with the client. I'll double your salary and promote you to director. Please come back. You pleaded, almost incoherently. Unfortunately, I have no intention of returning. You failed in your role as president by prioritizing petty dramas over your responsibilities. I doubt you can manage this situation without me, I replied before hanging up. I ignored her subsequent calls, eager to see how she would cope without me. Later that evening, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Helena and Carl stood there, looking disheveled and desperate. We're so sorry, Caroline. Please forgive us, they begged. It was evident that the presentation had gone horribly wrong. Helena had shown up alone, and the client had left in a huff, clearly unimpressed with her performance. They had indicated they might reconsider working with the company if I were involved. Caroline, please, for the sake of the company, come back, Helena implored. My anger flared. For the company? How can you say that? You've disrupted our work, fired me for speaking out, and turned everyone against you with your arrogance. This mess is entirely your doing. Please leave. As I attempted to close the door, Helena lunged forward. This is all because you interfered with my lunches with Sile, embarrassing me in front of everyone. That's why I fired you. You got in the way of my lunches, that's it. Her childish reasoning made my stomach turn. I'm begging you to come back. Helena cried, but she was quickly stopped by Sile, who had been watching from a distance. Enough, Helena. I came here because I was worried about Caroline. I can't believe it's come to this, Sile said, surprising both Helena and me. Let me be clear, dining or conversing with you has been nothing but a hassle for me because I have someone special in my life. I've told you this repeatedly, but you never listened, he confessed, leaving Helena momentarily stunned. Caroline and the other employees who resigned have already found new jobs. A competing firm is thrilled to have us. We're all talented, and they welcomed us with open arms. Caroline and I won't be returning. You're the reason she was unfairly dismissed, so don't show up in front of us again, he said firmly. Helena opened her mouth to protest, but Carl, looking pale and regretful, pulled her away. He was the one who appointed Helena as president and ignored my desperate pleas for help. There was no sympathy left for him. Without support from the employees and missing a prime opportunity, the company's reputation crumbled, leading to its downfall. I felt sorry for the wonderful predecessor who had once been at the helm, but once he was gone, it was only a matter of time before the company fell apart. Helena and Carl would soon be buried under debt, living lives I couldn't even begin to imagine. Meanwhile, Sil and I began dating. His confession that I was the one he cared for was a sweet surprise. After years of working side by side, our relationship had blossomed from colleagues into partners. I was grateful I hadn't rushed into marriage when I was younger. It felt right to find the best partner later in life. Life is unpredictable, and I've been contemplating whether Sil and I might get married someday.